Alien invasion and capture. The skies above Earth turned an ominous shade of crimson as the first wave of alien ships descended through the atmosphere. Panic gripped the world's population as news of the impending invasion spread like wildfire. Governments scrambled to mobilize their military forces, but nothing could have prepared them for the might of the alien Amazon warriors. These towering, muscular females, with skin tones ranging from deep blue to vibrant green, were equipped with advanced weaponry and possessed an unrivaled ferocity in battle. Armies clashed in the streets of major cities, the Amazon's energy blasters illuminating the night sky as human tanks and artillery fire struggled to hold them back. Amidst the chaos, one human soldier named Jake found himself face to face with a wounded Amazon warrior. Her name was Zora, and despite her imposing stature and the glistening sheen of her battle armor, she had been brought to her knees by a well-placed grenade. Jake, his rifle trained on her, hesitated. There was something in her eyes, a flicker of fear mixed with defiance, that stayed his hand. In a split-second decision that would change the course of his life, Jake lowered his weapon and approached the fallen warrior. Zara growled, baring her razor-sharp teeth, but Jake held up his hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, his voice steady despite the hammering of his heart. "Let me help." Zara, too weak to fight back, could only watch as Jake carefully applied a tourniquet to her bleeding leg. As he worked, Jake's mind raced with questions. Why were the Amazons here? What did they want? But those questions would have to wait. Reinforcements were on the way, and Jake knew he had to get Zara out of there. With a grunt of effort, he hoisted the semi-conscious Amazon over his shoulder and set off into the night, disappearing into the shadows as the battle raged on behind them. Little did Jake know, his act of mercy would set in motion a chain of events that would not only shape the future of Earth, but also forge an unbreakable bond between two unlikely allies. Prisoner and caretaker. The secret military facility was abuzz with activity as Jake carried Zora through the heavily guarded gates. Scientists and military personnel alike gawked at the sight of the captured Amazon, her muscular form dwarfing Jake's as he carefully laid her on a medical gurney. In the days that followed, Jake found himself appointed as Zora's primary caretaker. It was a role met with equal parts suspicion and curiosity by his superiors, but Jake's natural compassion and the need for someone to keep a close eye on their prisoner made him the logical choice. At first, Zora was hostile and uncooperative. She glared at Jake with a mix of anger and distrust, refusing to speak or accept his help. But Jake remained patient, tending to her wounds and ensuring she was well fed. "Why are you doing this?" Zara asked one day, her voice a low rumble. "I am your enemy." Jake paused, considering his words carefully. "I don't believe that," he said. "I think there's more to this than we understand." As the days turned into weeks, the wall of hostility between them began to crumble. Jake learned that Zara was a fierce warrior, dedicated to her people and driven by a deep sense of duty. In turn, Zara saw in Jake a kindness and compassion that challenged her preconceptions about humans. Tentative conversations turned into shared meals and long discussions about their respective worlds. Jake marveled at the advanced technology of Zora's people, while Zora found herself drawn to the resilience and adaptability of humans. But even as their rapport grew, the specter of the ongoing war loomed large. Zora was still a prisoner, and Jake knew that his superiors were growing impatient for answers. One evening, as Jake changed the dressings on Zora's nearly healed wounds, she fixed him with a serious gaze. "Jake," she said, her voice urgent, "there's something you need to know about why we're here." Jake leaned in, his heart pounding. He had a feeling that whatever Zora was about to reveal would change everything. Secrets revealed. Zora's words hung heavy in the air, the weight of her revelation bearing down on Jake like a physical force. She spoke of an ancient enemy, a race of parasitic beings that consumed entire worlds, leaving nothing but barren wastelands in their wake. "They're coming," Zora said, her eyes haunted. They've set their sights on Earth, and my people are the only ones who can stop them. Jake's mind reeled. The invasion, the battles, it had all been a misunderstanding. The Amazons weren't here to conquer Earth. They were here to save it. Why didn't you just tell us? Jake asked, his voice strained. We could have worked together from the start. Zara shook her head. My people have a saying. The hand that wields the sword cannot also extend in friendship. We believe the humans would see us as a threat, no matter our intentions. Jake ran a hand through his hair, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. We have to tell them, he said. We have to find a way to stop this enemy together. But Zara's next words froze him in his tracks. It may already be too late, she said. Our scouts have detected the enemy's advance. They'll be here within days. A chill ran down Jake's spine. They were out of time. But as he looked into Zora's eyes, he saw a glimmer of hope, a fierce determination that mirrored his own. Then we'll face them together, Jake said, his voice steady. We'll find a way. Together, Jake and Zara began to formulate a plan. They knew that their only hope lay in the ancient technology of Zora's people, a weapon capable of destroying the parasitic threat. But to get it, they would have to escape the facility and embark on a perilous journey to Zora's hidden ship. As they prepared to put their plan into action, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The road ahead would be fraught with danger, but with Zora by his side, he felt a sense of purpose and determination unlike anything he had ever known. They were two warriors from different worlds, bound by a common cause. And together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, no matter the cost. Quest for salvation. The night was thick with tension as Jake and Zara made their escape from the military facility. Alarms blared behind them as they raced through the darkened corridors, their footsteps echoing off the concrete walls. They emerged into the cool night air, the stars above a stark contrast to the chaos they left behind. Zara led the way, her keen senses guiding them through the dense forest that surrounded the base. For days, they trekked through the wilderness, avoiding military patrols and the ever-present threat of the advancing enemy. They relied on each other for survival, Jake's knowledge of the terrain and Zora's warrior instincts proving invaluable. As they journeyed, their bond deepened. Quiet moments around the campfire turned into heartfelt conversations about their hopes and fears. Jake learned of Zora's life on her homeworld, of the rigid warrior culture that had shaped her. In turn, he shared his own stories of a life before the invasion, of the family he longed to protect. One night, as they sheltered in a cave from a raging storm, Zara turned to Jake, her eyes soft in the flickering light of their small fire. I never thought I could feel this way about a human, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You've shown me a different way, Jake. A path beyond war and hatred. Jake's heart swelled, a warmth spreading through his chest. He reached out, his hand finding hers in the darkness. We'll find a way through this, he promised. Together. But their respite was short-lived. As they neared the hidden location of Zora's ship, they found themselves confronted by a squad of enemy scouts. The parasitic beings, hideous amalgamations of organic and mechanical parts, attacked with a ferocity that seemed to defy nature. Jake and Zara fought side by side, their movements synchronized in a deadly dance. Zara's energy blaster lit up the night, while Jake's tactical skills kept them one step ahead of their pursuers. But the enemy was relentless. As they closed in, Zara turned to Jake, a look of grim determination on her face. Get to the ship, she said, pressing her blaster into his hands. I'll hold them off. Jake's eyes widened, a protest forming on his lips. But the look in Zora's eyes brooked no argument. With a final, searing kiss, she turned and charged into the fray, her battle cry echoing through the night. Jake's heart wrenched as he watched her go, but he knew what he had to do. With a final glance over his shoulder, he raced towards the ship, Zora's sacrifice fueling his every step. The future of two worlds hung in the balance, and Jake would not let her down. A future forged. The ancient weapon pulsed with energy as Jake activated the ship's systems. Zara's people had called it the Lifebringer, a device capable of eradicating the parasitic threat on a galactic scale. As the ship lifted off, Jake's thoughts were with Zara, the brave warrior who had sacrificed everything to give him this chance. He could still feel the warmth of her kiss, the strength of her hand in his. The enemy fleet filled the view screen, a vast armada of grotesque ships, pulsing with malevolent energy. Jake's hand hovered over the weapon's control, a final moment of hesitation. But then he remembered Zora's words, the conviction in her voice as she spoke of a future free from the shadow of war. With a deep breath, he activated the Lifebringer. A wave of shimmering energy erupted from the ship, washing over the enemy fleet like a tidal wave. The parasitic ships shuddered and convulsed, their hulls cracking and splintering as the Lifebringer's power tore them apart. In a matter of moments, it was over. The enemy was gone, reduced to cosmic dust. The threat to Earth and countless other worlds had been eliminated. But for Jake, the victory was bittersweet. As he guided the ship back to Earth, his heart ached for Zora. She had given everything to make this moment possible, and now he faced a future without her. As the ship touched down, Jake was met by a rush of military personnel and scientists, their faces a mix of awe and disbelief. But amidst the chaos, a familiar figure emerged. Zara, battered but alive, limped towards him, a smile on her face. Jake's heart soared as he raced to her, gathering her in his arms. "How?" he managed, his voice thick with emotion. "I told you," Zara said, her eyes shining. "I'll always find my way back to you." In the days that followed, as Earth and Zara's homeworld began the slow process of rebuilding, Jake and Zara found themselves at a crossroads. The war was over, but their worlds remained vastly different. But for Jake, there was no choice to make. "Stay with me," he said, taking Zara's hands in his. "Be my wife. Let's build a future together." Zara's smile was brighter than any sun as she nodded, tears of joy streaming down her face. And so, a new chapter began. A human and an alien warrior, bound by love and the shared experience of a battle that had changed the course of the galaxy. Together, Jake and Zora would face whatever challenges the future held, their love a beacon of hope and unity in a universe that had known far too much darkness. As they stood hand in hand, gazing out at the stars, they knew that their story was just beginning. A story of two worlds, two hearts, and a love that would endure for all time.